A fire investigation is underway, and Mother Nature could be the blame. Details just ahead.
We're sifting through the results of the new Fairfax KSAT Rivard Report poll. How the San Antonio Police Department Union President Michael Helly is responding to some of the results.
Live from KSAT 12, the news at noon starts right now.
And developing this noon, nature may be to blame for a house fire south of downtown.
Fire investigators are looking into whether lightning caused that fire.
Katrina Weber has that story from the 500 block of King Roger and tells us 3 people managed to escape without a moment to spare.
According to a relative, things here easily could have taken an even worse turn. She says everyone who lives inside that house was asleep at the time. Luckily, at least one of them woke up just in time.
It was right around 10 this morning when firefighters got the call. They arrived to a cloud of heavy smoke in the 500 block of King Roger, then found the source of it, a family's home. Fortunately, all 3 people and 2 puppies escaped safely. Firefighters, meanwhile, worked quickly to put out the flames, which had made their way through the attic. Then they called in arson investigators to look for the cause. At least one family member who happened to be outside her own home blames lightning for the troubles.
So I said, well, it hit the driveway. It hit the driveway. I said, I ran inside. But I waited a few minutes and I saw through the window, I saw my cousin coming out. I said, oh my God, it's their house.
There were 3 occupants to our knowledge. When we arrived, everybody got out okay. We did have one of the homeowners was complaining of smoke inhalation.
That woman, who's in her 70s, was checked out by paramedics, but firefighters say she's okay now and did not need to go to a hospital. Her home, though, is in need of some major repairs.
Seems the fire caused quite a bit of damage. Firefighters estimate it at about $50,000 to $60,000. Reporting from south of downtown, Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
Thanks, Katrina. New this noon, more cases of the antiviral drug remdesivir now coming to San Antonio.
Yeah, that's the drug being used to help those who have COVID-19. Now, Governor Greg Abbott made the announcement this morning. 21 cases of the drug will be given to 6 hospitals in our area. This is the 5th round of distribution from the federal government. At 368 cases, that's enough to treat approximately 1,472 patients. This is the largest distribution so far, and it brings the total cases distributed to Texas hospitals by DSHS to 977. Remdesivir has shown promise in early trials and speeding up the recovery time among hospitalized COVID-19 patients.
The current weekly average of new COVID-19 cases in Bexar County is now surpassing every single week from the first 4 months of the pandemic. The latest report shows another 274 new cases, bringing our total to 7,156. To put that into perspective, at this time last week, we were still under 4,500 cases. No new deaths were reported. ICU and ventilator numbers are down slightly, but overall hospitalization numbers are up an additional 40 patients since yesterday, bringing the total to 446.
Meanwhile, across the country, a growing number of states are seeing a rapid rise in infections and hospitalizations.
Some governors and even the president have suggested it's due to more testing, but doctors say that's not the whole story. ABC's Andrew Dimbert reports from Washington.
Ready to rally, President Trump is heading to Arizona for a campaign address at a mega church, while coronavirus cases in that state continue to climb.
I'm not worried about it. No, not at all. We watch it. We're very careful.
But Arizona quickly becoming a COVID-19 hotspot in the country. 84% of the ICU beds there now occupied by COVID patients. From Tucson to Yuma, hospitalizations hitting alarming highs.
We are having a situation where we don't have enough nursing staff.
In a video that was posted to Facebook and later deleted by the megachurch, officials claim to have installed an air purifying system that would kill the virus.
We've installed these units, and it kills 99.9% of COVID.
Doctors dispute the claim, saying that filtration system has not proven effective against COVID-19 and that people still need to take precautions like wearing masks and keeping their distance. With the widening spread of the virus around the country, 26 states are reporting a rise. Some states' governors and President Trump suggesting the cause of the spread is due to more testing.
I don't kid. Let me just tell you, let me make it clear. We have got the greatest testing program anywhere in the world. We test better than anybody in the world. By having more tests, we find more cases.
However, health officials say the primary driver of the increase is more people becoming infected with COVID-19.
We are doing more testing, and that's part of the reason, but much of it is because we just have more infections.
Meanwhile, back in the nation's capital, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's leading infectious disease expert, and CDC Director Robert Redfield are testifying on Capitol Hill about the U.S. response to the pandemic.
Get your arms around and understand exactly what's going on in community spread. So it's the opposite. We're going to be doing more testing, not less.
6 states are also holding primary elections today, and preparations have been in place to mitigate the risks of COVID-19, including scaled down in-person voting in Kentucky. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, Washington.
And the need for blood is still high. The South Texas Blood and Tissue Center says they've almost a 5-day supply in their inventory, but when it comes to the supply of O positive, there is only a 2-day supply. As an incentive, the Blood Center is offering donors who give blood or platelets a free coronavirus antibody test through the end of August. Those results will be mailed to you within 14 days. If you want to schedule an appointment, just head over to their website, southtexasblood.org/give-now.
A big story we are following this noon, the results of a new Fairfax KSAT Rivard report poll. People in Bexar County were asked about the recent protest, how police responded, and how they feel about the San Antonio Police Department. Sarah Acosta has been following this story, going through the results of this survey, and she tells us what she found.
George Floyd's death resulted in protests across the country against racial injustice and police brutality, even right here in the Alamo City. But we wanted to find out how Bexar County residents felt about local law enforcement and the response to protesters.
United we stand. United we fall. United we stand.
The results are in from our latest Fairfax KSAT Rivard report poll. And polling found that there is a broad support for local police. Nearly 80% agreed local law enforcement responded in an appropriate manner to ensure people and property are kept safe. 17% said they believe local police have been unnecessarily aggressive and used excessive force on protesters. Now, 36% said too many local police officers are biased against African Americans. As for when officers patrol the streets, more than 4 out of 5 say they feel safer when they see police officers in their neighborhood. When it comes to police reform, 8 general reforms were mentioned, and 80% of residents said they supported the majority of those reforms. One of them was hiring more officers of color and requiring officers to live in the community that they police. Another reform that the survey supported was additional de-escalation training for officers.
There's so much more to the results of this very extensive survey. You can find all of them right now on KSAT.com, but make sure you tune in tonight. KSAT is hosting a town hall on policing and race. It's going to start at 6:30 p.m. on KSAT, and it's going to go until 8 p.m. You can also watch it online at KSAT.com and also our streaming app. From the newsroom, I'm Sarah Acosta, KSAT 12 News.
And we want you to be a part of that conversation, and that's why we've asked you to send us your questions about race and policing. As Sarah mentioned, the live town hall begins at 6:30 p.m. right here on KSAT 12, and we'll also be live streaming the event once again on our KSAT TV app.
And we did hear from the San Antonio Police Department Union President Michael Helly and got his reaction to the survey results. He says he is proud of the community for the broad support of officers that the results showed.
Well, I think that's fantastic. I mean, that goes to the fundamental foundations that I've been saying all along, that we're not like other police departments, certainly not Minneapolis, that our officers are professional in what they do. They care about the community that they work in.
As for the statistics from the poll that showed 70% of Bexar County voters said that police unions have been a barrier to holding local police officers accountable for misconduct. He says it didn't surprise him because of the narrative that the media has been portraying about the union and SAPD.
For the record, our contract does not defend bad cops, and our contract does not prevent the chief from firing bad cops, period. It only allows the processes of what needs to take place.
Helly says he believes that there is always room for reform and improvements, but says educating the public on the role of the police union is also important for the public to better understand their process.
Now to the latest on an overnight crash on the northeast side. A driver now facing intoxication assault charges. The crash happened around 11:30 last night on I-35 near Splashtown. According to police, a 27-year-old man was driving a Ford Fusion out of the motel parking lot and onto the access road, and that's when he was hit by a driver in a Mercedes. Officers say that second driver was speeding. The driver in the Mercedes ended up rolling their vehicle several times. The driver in the Ford lost control and ended up in the grass near the road. The person in the Ford was hospitalized with life-threatening injuries. The man in the Mercedes was also taken to the hospital. That driver is now facing charges.
Officers are hoping surveillance video will hold the key to a robbery case. Police got the call just before 2 this morning and rushed to the store in the 6400 block of Babcock Road. They say the clerk told them a man who claimed to have a gun robbed the business of cash, then took off. Officers on the ground and in a helicopter overhead searched the area, but came up empty-handed.
Still to come this half hour, former Spur moving up the league office ranks. Coming up in sports.
Well, some good news for movie fans this noon. Santikos Embassy is set to reopen this weekend. The movie theater will open its doors on Friday with new physical distancing protocols. And to get people back in theaters, the location is offering $5 movie tickets like The Greatest Showman, Knives Out, and Irresistible. And if you're a Santikos loyalty member, you will be receiving 2 free movie tickets per week through July 16th. You can find more information about Santikos safety protocols on KSAT.com.
Outside with live cam, nice thunder boomer today about 9 o'clock, rolling through San Antonio. Left some good rain, left the temperatures down, and maybe even some more, Justin.
There could be a little bit more. It's like what we like to call maintenance rain. It helped us out a little bit because the aquifer has been dropping, and this should bump the aquifer up. Doesn't show up yet, but maybe tomorrow we'll see that. Down about 0.8 of a foot to 660.2 today, so getting closer to that 660 number. Mold jumped up a little bit, not a surprise. It's at 750, moderate pig weed, grass low. We're going to take a look at the radar and get you set for the rest of your week coming up.
Never miss a story. Watch live or when you want. San Antonio's latest news and weather, streaming free on KSAT TV.
We're talking about that rain that rolled through about 9 o'clock this morning. Here's some video of that nice downpour.
It was a huge downpour.
Huge downpour?
It was huge.
Very big. It was loud, too.
Very loud.
Loud and had some electricity in it.
It did. Thunder, lightning, we
that.
got it all.
That's nice right there.
Yeah, it's good rain. I mean, I think we're going to see some pretty nice totals here around town. In fact, we got some totals to show you here in just a second. Real quick, before we jump into the weather, though, of note, there was an earthquake. This was around 10:30 this morning down in Mexico. This one was a pretty strong one, 7.4 magnitude. That was reported right around 10:29 down there in the state of Oaxaca. No reports yet of any damage or anything like that. We'll keep an eye on it, but just wanted to pass that along. Meantime, the radar shows that most of the storms have passed us by at this point. We've got a couple storms down there along I-37, but that's it. Things are going to quiet down, I think, for the rest of the afternoon. It's possible we could see some regeneration of some storms a little bit later tonight, but I think the atmosphere at this point is so worked over and stable, we're not going to see anything for a long while. And looking at some of the showers that have made it into our southeastern counties, they're falling apart. There's not much left there. So a couple showers around Kennedy, Cuero, you may have got a sprinkle, but that's it. Again, the storm totals were pretty good as these came through San Antonio. This is one of our computer models. Does show that we'll see quiet conditions through much of the afternoon. Shows maybe an isolated storm out west. And then as we get into tonight, as long as there is still a boundary around here, which is possible, we could get a couple more storms to develop during the overnight hours. Possibility, not a guarantee. And I think as we get into tomorrow, the models are turning a little bit drier with this too, because we'll have still some stable air in place. So we've lowered rain chances just a bit on Wednesday. I still think we have the chance for some downpours, though, as we get into Thursday and Friday. And, of course, the other thing we've been talking about is the dust coming in from the Caribbean. We're still waiting on that. We're getting a little bit of it today, but not a whole lot. I think the bulk of it's going to start to move in Thursday, it looks like. Thursday into Friday. Again, this just results in some hazy atmosphere. You may notice some more vibrant sunsets, and it could cause a few issues with folks that are allergic to dust. But again, that's more Thursday, Friday into Saturday when we're expecting that. It's a pretty big area of dust that'll be moving in. Okay, there's a look at some of the totals that we've seen so far today. About 700s at the airport, 8,300s at Bernie, 1,300s of an inch, Floresville. Not huge numbers, but one of the bigger numbers I saw was downtown San Antonio picked up 1.71, so that's pretty good. And some of this was over the recharge zone. So as we mentioned, perhaps the aquifer will jump up a bit tomorrow. These storms started way up here in the Texas Panhandle, and because we have northwesterly flow aloft, we can oftentimes get these storms to travel a long distance, and that's what they did. Made it into San Antonio a little bit earlier, and now moving towards the coast. We've also got quite a bit of rain out in the Gulf of Mexico. In this little area, this little spin here that you see in the atmosphere, this area of low pressure is going to slowly drift south and east today. So that's why there is that slight potential for a few more storms later tonight. Outside right now, sun's trying to peek out, 75 degrees, dew point is at 69. Warm-up's going to be a little bit slower today because we had the cloud cover and the rain. 75 at the airport, 76 New Braunfels, 81 Kennedy, 88 one of the hot spots out there in Del Rio. Forecast calls for a high right around 89. We will put in a 30% chance of showers and storms tonight. And then tomorrow we've lowered it to a 30% chance, but a 40% chance of some downpours Thursday and Friday. A little bit of haze in the air too, Thursday, Friday into Saturday. Guys?
All right, it's good nap weather right now, right?
Yeah, I think so. But not yet. We've still got like 40 minutes to go. Ain't napping yet. The NFL coming up with a tier system to allow players and coaches and staff back in the facilities. And a former Spur not going to play this summer. I'll tell you who and why. Coming up.
Pro football coverage, powered by Davis Law Firm.
All 32 NFL teams have to develop an infectious disease emergency response plan that sets in motion protocols in case of an outbreak of the coronavirus. That is a mandate coming from the NFL offices. The league is also ordering all teams develop a tier system that restricts where personnel can go in the team facilities and when they can go there. That's according to a memo sent to all teams, and that was obtained by ESPN. Now, teams must assign employees tier access, and they will have to wear photo credentials detailing where they are allowed to go that include access to stadium and practice fields, sidelines, locker rooms, and training rooms. NFL teams must assign their players and employees tier 1, 2, or 3 status, and those assignments have to be in the league office for approval 7 days before the first mandatory reporting date for training camp. Here's a look at what those tier systems look like. Tier 1, players, coaches, trainers, physicians, and necessary personnel who must have direct access to the players. Tier 2 is general managers, football operation employees, other assistant coaches, video personnel, security, other essential personnel who may need to be in close proximity to the players and other Tier 1 individuals. And then there's Tier 3, operational personnel, in-house media and broadcast personnel, field managers, transportation providers, and individuals who perform essential facility, stadium, or event services but do not require close contact with Tier 1 individuals. In the meantime, Dak Prescott is about to get paid a good chunk of change. Yesterday, he signed his franchise tag that'll pay him $31.4 million for this coming season. Two things it does. It allows Prescott to report for any virtual instructions and, more importantly, makes him available for the opening of training camp under new head coach Mike McCarthy. It also gives the Cowboys and Dak's representatives until July 15th to work out a new long-term contract. Former Spur Davis Bertans has informed the Washington Wizards that he will not participate in the restart of the NBA season next month. Yesterday was the day that the NBA players who are part of the 22-team restart in Orlando, Florida, were set to report to their teams. Bertans had decided not to. Bertans, who played for the Spurs starting in 2016, was traded to the Washington Wizards last summer and is an unrestricted free agent coming off a career year, averaging almost 16 points, shooting almost 42% from three-point range. And congratulations to former Spur Malik Rose, a two-time NBA champion in 1999 and 2003, has been named Vice President of Basketball Operations. Rose will be responsible for interfacing direction with teams and players regarding league programs, rules, new initiatives, and competitive elements. Smithson Valley High School parents have been informed that a student who attended the strength and conditioning program last week has tested positive for COVID-19. According to email sent by head coach Larry Hill, the student was last at camp on Wednesday, June 17th, started to experience COVID-19 related symptoms at home on the following Thursday morning. He did not attend camp and was later tested that day. We believe the spread has been mitigated at this time. However, in accordance with state guidelines and out of an abundance of caution, the student group and coach to which the student was part of will self-isolate and not return to campus until health guidelines are required by the UIL and the state are met. And the Edgewood Independent School District has suspended all strength and conditioning camps due to a spike in COVID-19 cases. That announcement was made by EISD Athletic Director Robert Gomez, which affects both Kennedy and Memorial High School. So a lot of precautions being taken, extra precautions being taken as well for these kids to get back to work. So some have decided that it's just too much. So why take the chance?
Yeah, every day changes. So.
Yes, it does.
All right. Well, our new news digital show, KSAT Explains, takes deep dives into the stories making headlines. And look at this week's episode still ahead on the news at noon.
And new today at 5 with COVID-19 numbers spiking up again. You might start stocking up on hand sanitizer, but buyers beware. The FDA has put out safety warning for 9 different brands that not only don't work, but could be detrimental to your health. Coming at 5, 12 on your sides, Marilyn Morris explains what you need to look out for. That's on at 5 after Entertainment Tonight.
The family of Rashard Brooks will be laying him to rest today in Atlanta. Brooks was shot and killed by police earlier this month. And as ABC's Trevor Ault reports, witnesses are now sharing new video of that deadly confrontation.
It is an emotional day here in Atlanta at a time where tensions in the city are still strained. The family of Rashard Brooks says they don't know if they will ever get justice, but they will say goodbye at a closed funeral service.
Family and friends of Rashard Brooks are paying their final respects Tuesday in Atlanta, a private funeral service for the man shot and killed a week and a half ago by Atlanta police. His death and its fallout now dividing the city. Brooks was asleep at the wheel in a Wendy's drive-thru the night he was killed.
Hey man, you're parked in the middle of the drive-thru line here.
When officers attempted to arrest him for DUI, he fought back, grabbing one of their tasers and trying to flee when he was shot in the back. Witnesses are now releasing new videos of the incident, cell phone recordings that capture people who appear to be taking sides, some with the young man who was killed, and some with the police officers.
He had a right to shoot him. He took that man's taser. He was trying to arrest him. Then he over there fighting the police. I seen the whole thing. The police didn't do nothing wrong.
The district attorney has now charged both officers involved, including a felony murder charge for Officer Garrett Rolfe, who fired those fatal shots. Police are reportedly demoralized and calling in sick.
Officers are working 12 and a half hour shifts, and sometimes even more. Being out on the front line, being yelled at, spit upon, and items thrown at them. So at some point, people get tired and physically exhausted.
Officer Garrett Rolfe, who is accused of murdering Rashard Brooks, was originally scheduled to appear in court today for a bond hearing. That hearing has since been postponed on account of today's funeral. Trevor Ault, ABC News, Atlanta.
The Commission on Presidential Debate says the second general election debate that had been scheduled in Michigan will now take place in Florida. It was announced today that the debate will be held in Miami on October 15th after originally set for the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. The commission says the university concluded it is no longer, quote, feasible to host the debate. It suggested that its decision is related to coronavirus concerns as it begins to prepare for classes in the fall.
The time right now, 12:33. Mother Nature came, poured down on us, and now she's gone.
She didn't stick around long, did she?
No, it didn't last very long. The rain is gone, but it came down heavy. We got some pretty big totals even here across the city of San Antonio. The radar right now is much quieter. You see the storms down there along the Texas coast. We've got one storm just to the south and east of Cotulla, but generally speaking, this is moving away from us, and the clouds are trying to clear out now too, so the sun will pop out. Temperatures will warm up some. Take a look at this picture on our KSAT Connect. This was nice cloud. This is probably right along the outflow boundary as it came through. This looks like Castroville, and great picture there. That's the scene a little bit earlier as these storms rolled in. A lot of electricity with these storms too. Temperatures right now 73 at Boulevardy, 74 Canyon Lake, 76 in New Braunfels, 70 right now in Devine with mostly cloudy skies. New forecast for today. We're going to take rain chances out basically through the afternoon. Light and variable winds. We could see a little bit of regeneration of some storms tonight as a boundary sticks around. Temperatures, though, not all that warm today thanks to the clouds and that rainfall. We're going to take another look at some of those rainfall totals and have an update on the tropics, too, coming up in just a bit. Guys.
Last week, we launched our new digital show, KSAT Explains. The once-a-week news program is an effort to provide perspective to the stories we bring you daily. A news episode will come to you every Thursday, and this Thursday, we're looking into concerns over voting safety during a pandemic and the battle over mail-in voting. Here's Myra Arthur with a preview.
For this week's episode of KSAT Explains, we discuss the issue of in-person voting during a pandemic with local infectious disease experts. Here's what some of them had to say.
It's probably low to moderate risk if the voter is wearing a mask and if everyone else is wearing a mask.
In-person voting can be made safer by going early, by making sure there aren't crowds there, by being really prepared so that you can get in and get out.
Both doctors also recommend casting an absentee ballot if you're older than 65. We also asked them about the risk factors of some other day-to-day activities during this pandemic, like going to the grocery store. Both doctors say it can be relatively safe as long as everyone is properly masked.
What that does is that helps protect others, and as well as offering you and your loved ones some protection. Distancing, when you're standing in line, staying a distance away from the person in front of you, and the person behind you staying distance from you.
When it comes to going to a shopping at the mall, consider going at a time when it won't be so crowded. If you make a trip during the weekend, it will likely be hard to keep your distance from other shoppers.
My personal experience at a local mall is that it was hard to stay away from people. I saw people bunched up, waiting to get into stores and not really observing the distancing.
Both doctors issued a warning about drinking at bars.
Bars are not a venue that typically lends itself to distancing. And the fact that you're going to be drinking with others, means that you can't be wearing your mask while you're drinking.
As soon as you consume alcohol, your inhibitions are lowered and you're going to be less likely to observe all of these measures.
While alcohol is also consumed at restaurants, experts say it's probably easier to follow safety protocols there. And while a lot of people want to make a social distancing exceptions for family members outside of their households, especially during holidays and special occasions, it's not necessarily a good idea.
We are seeing that those kinds of events where extended families get together are in the background of a lot of the cases that are coming into the hospital right now.
When it comes to going about your life during a pandemic, it's hard to rank the risk of different activities because there are several factors that come into play when determining safety.
In each case, it just depends on how many people are there, how close are they to you, how long are you close to them, and are you indoors or outdoors?
It's all about mitigating the risk. We've learned now that we're going to have to live with this virus for a while. And we can get out and do things safely if we're using the right precautions.
Myra Arthur, KSAT 12 News.
You can be sure and watch the next episode of KSAT Explains. It drops this Thursday morning. For those of you who don't know what that means, it comes to you Thursday morning. It'll be available on KSAT TV app, on Roku, Fire Stick, and most other smart TV devices. It's the new technical way of saying it's on.
You'll see it on there when it lists. Yeah.
You don't actually drop it, do you?
No.
Might break it.
We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. This is your Daily Tech and Business Briefing from Cheddar.
Patagonia becoming the latest to join the ever-growing list of major companies who are pausing advertising on Facebook and Instagram. The company doing so to show support for the movement called #StopHateForProfit. The organizers of the campaign calling on companies to pause ad spending during the month of July, alleging that Facebook has allowed the platform to be used in widespread voter suppression efforts using targeted disinformation all aimed at black voters. Meanwhile, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, is skipping its theatrical debut and is instead going to launch on premium digital rental services early next year before landing an exclusive run on CBS All Access. The animated sequel was originally set to hit the big screen on May the 22nd, but was delayed until August the 7th due to the coronavirus pandemic. And SoftBank is planning to sell up to 198 million shares of T-Mobile stock worth about $21 billion. That represents roughly 65% of their stake in the telecom company. Now, as part of the transaction, T-Mobile will hold a public offering of 133 million shares of their stock and will grant the underwriters 10 million shares. The move is an attempt to free up cash as the coronavirus weighs on a slew of SoftBank's major investments. And that's your Cheddar Business and Tech Update. I'm Baker Machado, coming to you from New York City.
With millions still unemployed and others still waiting to get back to work, a report in the New England Journal of Medicine outlines what businesses can do to safely resume operations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Employees and customers are encouraged to do what's already been asked of everyone: wash hands frequently, wear masks, stay apart, and stay home if unwell. But the report also suggests employers may take disciplinary action against employees who don't abide by these guidelines. It also advises employers to offer or extend sick leave benefits to encourage workers to stay home when feeling sick. Businesses can also place partitions or barriers between workers or between employees and customers and improve ventilation and air circulation. Staggered work schedules can also help keep employees safer, as well as accommodations to workers at a higher risk of getting seriously ill from the virus, including the option to work from home. For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Once there is an increase in virus testing capacity, the report says employers can also do contact tracing to help a slow potential spread in the workplace.
Well, H-E-B will make its Texas Proud program permanent. The program provides hourly increases for stores and supply chain employees. The $2 pay increase for hourly employees was implemented on March 16th and was extended. The grocery chain will continue to add perks and benefits for employees, including making Martin Luther King Jr. Day an official paid holiday. Employees will also receive extended paid medical leave if they are diagnosed with COVID-19.
The San Antonio Museum of Art thanking educators by offering free summer memberships. The offer now available and will be valid through September 30th. The membership includes free admission to the museum and special exhibits, discounted on tickets, certain events, and $5 guest tickets. Teachers of all grade levels, grade school to universities, can register in person or online. Just make sure to bring your school ID card.
Let's take a look outside right now. The clouds have moved away. I went outside. Everything was kind of calm. I want to say the sun was peeking through, but that could have just been me.
No, it's definitely trying. And I think we'll see the sun this afternoon. Thankfully, the cloud cover and the rain that we saw this morning has sort of pushed temperatures back a little bit. We're behind schedule, and I think that'll keep us a little bit cooler today. 79 was the high temperature. That actually occurred right after midnight. 71 was the low. That was during when the rain was moving through. The averages are 93 and 74. Records are 102 and 63. And we did pick up a little bit of rain at the airport. We'll talk more about those rainfall totals coming up.
From the forecast, it looks like this could be a very interesting pattern we're getting into. A little rain.
The whole week looks a little interesting.
Yeah,
if it continues like this.
Might be interesting, especially after what we saw today.
It's a good situation, yeah, because, we usually have that ridge of high pressure over us. It's kind of shifted out of the way a little bit. And when that happens, it kind of opens the door for some rain chances. We saw that this morning. Nice complex of showers and storms. Let me show you where it started, though. Take a look up towards Lubbock. We're going to back up in time here. This is 12:35 a.m. You can see those storms starting up there. There was severe thunderstorm warnings when they initially began, and then they slowly made their way across Texas And this formed into sort of a bigger line, if you will, as it pushed south, pushed into the hill country earlier this morning, if you were with us on GMSA, and then down into San Antonio about 9 o'clock this morning. They still packed a punch. They weren't severe, but brought some good rain, some lightning, some thunder. And then now they're really starting to fall apart a little bit. But you can still see a circulation right there. That's a little area of low pressure. This is going to sink south and east today, so it could create some more showers and storms. But for the moment, the atmosphere is pretty worked over, and things are going to stay fairly quiet. A little closer look here, what we got going on. One little storm down there, south and west of Beeville, some action right along the coast, but everybody else is quiet now, just with a little bit of leftover cloud cover, and that sun now starting to pop out. Here's what the computer models are saying, and by 5, 6 o'clock, shows things pretty quiet, 1 or 2 isolated storms. And before we go any further, let me just say, these computer models have done a horrible job today of seeing these showers and storms, and that's pretty typical in this kind of pattern. So we can't take too much from what they tell us, but it gives us a general idea here that we could see some more isolated storms, I think, later tonight. This is around 3 o'clock, shows some development. If we have a boundary out there, this is possible. It's also indicating now that we may have some slightly more stable air tomorrow, which would bring rain chances down just a little bit. We'd still have some rain chances Thursday and Friday, but we'll certainly keep an eye on it for you and keep you posted on what's going there. Meantime, in the tropics, we do now have a new tropical storm. This is Dolly, not really a true tropical storm here, but classified by the Hurricane Center. This is going to move north and probably fall apart. Winds right now 45 miles per hour, so not a big deal, but just wanted to pass it along. We do have the D-named storm now out there in the Atlantic. Observed rainfall. Rain chance or rain totals were around 7/100 of an inch here at the airport. Bernie about 83/100 of an inch, 23/100 of an inch in New Braunfels. Not huge numbers, but it was nice to see. And I think the aquifer is going to benefit a little bit from this. The biggest number we had down there around, downtown San Antonio, 1.71. It's just a good number. There was a little bit of street flooding in spots. We showed you that complex still working its way south and east. It put out a lot of cloud cover too, so skies are still mostly cloudy. 75, dew point at 69, but look for more sun as we get into the afternoon as these clouds sort of thin out. 73 at Randolph, 73 Seguin, 79 Carrizo Springs, still cloudy down there in Cotulla, 73 there. Forecast calls for a high right around 89. We will put in a 30% chance of showers tonight, and then a 30% chance coming up tomorrow. 40% chance Thursday, Friday. And as we talked about earlier, some of that dust still coming in from the Caribbean. That's scheduled Thursday and Friday as well, guys. Got to keep the masks and the umbrella all week. All week. I was waiting for him to say, well, hello, Dolly. No. You know, come on. You remember that, don't you? Yes. Okay. So I was going to have to give you another history lesson. Historic discovery in London will tell you what archaeologists found just 2 miles from one of the wonders of the world. And if you ever wanted to smell like a deadhead, yep, here's your opportunity. A look at the scents that makes up the Grateful Dead's new deodorant line. This is a little strange. The Grateful Dead releasing a line of vegan deodorants. Fortunately, the deodorants don't smell like your typical outdoor music festival. The line features scents like rose, lavender, and juniper, with the brand's iconic Thunderbolt on the packaging. The deodorant comes in 5 different scents, including skull and roses and sunshine. Surviving members of the Grateful Dead created deodorant with North Coast Organics. They're 100% natural, vegan, and made with edible ingredients, in case you get the munch. Eat your deodorant, wear it, and eat it. Okay. Well, is this real life? Is it just fantasy? Freddie Mercury and the rest of the Queen being honored in the form of stamps. Check it out. A total of 13 stamps celebrating the rock legends. They feature artwork from some of the band's most popular album covers, as well as a rare live performance. These stamps will be available for purchase worldwide July 9th. Archaeologists in England have made a major discovery near Stonehenge. They found more than 20 prehistoric shafts
The monument was found roughly 2 miles away from Stonehenge. Researchers believe the shafts are probably Neolithic and were constructed nearly 5,000 years ago. They also think the shafts, which are 33 feet in diameter and 5 meters deep, served as a boundary for the sacred area or a precinct linked with Stonehenge.
All right, Jen is on her own today from home hosting SA Live.
And they are cracking open a bottle of bourbon from Mavericks Whiskey and starting a new series for kids.
Okay, the bourbon and the kids series, I don't think are the same thing.
I mean, if you have kids at home, then I can understand why.
Coming up on SA Live, we're going a little nuts. We're working from home and we're talking about the health benefits of one specific nut and why you should add it to your diet. That topic will be cracked open a little later in the show. Plus, cheers! We break the seal on a bottle of bourbon. A local distillery has reopened for tastings and tours, and Mike tries his hand at making an old-fashioned. San Antonio staple WD Deli is changing owners. Don't worry, they're staying open. I got a little worried myself. We're going to get an update from the owners and find out how you can still enjoy those family recipes passed down through generations. There on the Broadway Deli, right there on Broadway Street. We're super excited to talk to them today. Plus, we start a new series on the show today. Grab the kids. They will enjoy some helpful advice from our friends at Morgan Wonderland. And we want to know what your outdoor plans are this summer. Please tag us at SA Live on Facebook or Twitter. And if you can't watch right now, just go ahead and get on that live stream because we are here working from home. That's all coming up on SA Live, plus a lot more. Stay right here on KSAT 12.